Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed psychologist, and I've been following Kirk Franklin's story for a while now. He talks a lot about his adoption, he talks about his history, and we are going to dive right into this video. So, Kirk Franklin released a video, and if you haven't seen it yet, trigger warnings for trauma, especially adoption trauma and father and mother wounds, there it was very powerful. I watched it I had seen it on my social media, actually over on Facebook. I had a few different friends posting about it and about how powerful the story was. I hadn't watched it yet. I had some time this morning. And so I put my headphones in. My kiddo was watching cartoons and I'm over here bawling. Like I am just like, I was not ready for the emotional response because they really give some behind the scenes information. And then also, the story isn't perfect. And I work with a lot of adoptees that if they are going to start a reunification process with a birth parent or with birth family, that we often talk about it before they meet and then we end up talking about it after they meet. And that's exactly what Kirk Franklin said that he did. He said that he reached out to his therapist. I'm not going to play clips from this because there's a little warning at the end that says they don't want people to repurpose things, and so I'm not going to play it. Please watch it, but I will share. So Kirk Franklin thought that this was his birth father. And that's what he was told. That's the information that he received. It sounds like there was some pain within that relationship. And because he talks about wanting some affirmation from this, who he thought was his birth father. And he ended up passing. So he this all happened and he was working on his album that's coming up, and I think the album, he tied it all into Father's Day. There are people that have their thoughts on him releasing this to talk about his upcoming album. To me, I think it makes the music even more powerful because there is so much healing that can come through music, and you can really just see him going through his journey throughout this process. And it really brought up a lot of the issues that we've talked about here on this channel, those core issues in adoption. And I'm just going to look at the size. Ooh, I need to make that a lot bigger. So let's make this bigger. Those 7 core issues in adoption. And just going to make that a little bit bigger. There we go. Where we talk about issues of, I need to share a different one. Here we go. It's this one. And I have the link to this down below, where there can be a feeling of loss, rejection, guilt and shame, grief, issues related to identity, intimacy, and mastery and control, that those things can come up within adoption, that this is just a part of adoption trauma that the adoptee does face. And Kirk Franklin talked about growing up in the neighborhood right with his mom, and really every time he saw her, that reopening his wound and reopening things for him. I've also worked with people that never saw their birth family again, and there was still that feeling of a loss of identity, or there was still that grief, there was still that wound. And so I don't think that has to be the case, where for him, he was sharing his journey and his story. It sounds like having that contact did increase things for him. But I will share this People article and we can watch this real quick and then talk about it. So this is him finding out from his doctor the results of the DNA test.
Hey, hey,
Hey, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so let me give you these results and not beat around the bush. It says the results are probable paternity 99.9999%.
Percent what?
Yes, he's your father. Right there.
What? What?
He's here.
What? What?
So before this, he had let his mother know that he was going through this process, and his mother had pretty much told him that there was no way that this gentleman could be his father. And if you look at the cover photo, and I'll show a picture in a minute, they look so much alike. And this was a very small town. And his birth father was 14 or 15 at the time that he was born. I think his mother was 16 or something. I think she was around 16 years old. And she lost custody of him when he was about 4 years old, and he was adopted. And he just talked about the loneliness and the grief and all of these things that he experienced. And he's 53 years old, and he's being bombarded with all of these emotions. I'm gonna let this finish out. There's just a few, just maybe a little bit left.
What?
Yeah, 99.
What?
Yeah.
What? 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 This man is my father? This man is my father? My mama lied to me again?
And I cannot imagine, because he ends up showing the process. So, Sarah, welcome, welcome. So, we are talking about Kirk Franklin finding out who his birth father is at the age of 53 years old. I will reshare this tab because the People article was actually pretty good. That covers this right here. And there's also a picture a little further down. And also realize that he only lived minutes from him, and that Kirk Franklin's youngest son would spend time around his building. And there's that picture that I was just talking about. You can see similarities in the nose. But you can just see a lot of similarities between the two of him. And his birth father's name is Richard Hubbard. I believe he's found out that he has a birth sister, and all of this has just been a lot. And if you go back and watch the documentary, which I really like, it's really, really emotional. And because his mother actually asked for another DNA test to be done, because she's so adamant that this cannot be the case, that this cannot be his birth father. And they do a second DNA test. That one comes back 99.999% as well. And she's still saying, no, there's no way that this is it. And so Kirk Franklin, he had a history with his oldest son. There was a major incident. There was audio recordings that were released. They got into a to say horrible, like they got in borderline, like verbally aggressive, verbally abusive discussion. And his son was an adult at the time, but that doesn't matter. The way that Kirk Franklin was going off on his son, and I'm sure things had happened. Their relationship has had a lot of ups and downs. And he also records him giving the information to his son as well. And some people have had their own thoughts about his son being included in this process and showing that journey. I think that part had to be there to talk about the generational trauma, because Kirk Franklin talks about the fact of how this wound, how growing up with his history and his story and all that's happened, he struggled with love. And that's not an excuse. That's not to excuse any of his behaviors. It just kind of helps us understand. It just kind of helps understand that even to this day, and when he was talking in the video, that he was still struggling to love his family, to love himself, to not feel like he has to perform and do all these things, and how he had missed the mark in major ways in his family. And I appreciated them bringing up, I think it's I'm bad with names. Curie, I'm bad with names, okay? But his oldest son, I think bringing him into that, because even when you see the part of him telling the oldest son, because they hadn't seen each other in, I think, 2 years since that major incident 2 years ago, and it was bad. It was really, if I'm saying it's bad, it was really, really bad, okay? Where they are just going at each, it was really, really bad. And I think there was a family therapist that they talked publicly about, and, they never released who it was, but they were trying to work on things in family therapy. But now Richard Hubbard is supposedly also supporting, Kirk Franklin's oldest, not sup but just emotionally, just kind of answering questions, being there as an additional support. And the thing that I appreciated, because you see his mom's response, and his mother likely has her own story, she likely has her own history of trauma and everything. And then you have his birth father's response. So even because there were some rumors going around about, "Oh, Richard and Donna," I believe is Kirk's mom, that they had dated. And I wonder if, like, there were these rumors going around, and because of those rumors, Richard did his own DNA swab and gave it to somebody to give to Kirk to say, "Hey, if he wants to know for sure, here's my DNA." Which I really appreciated, that he at no point, to me, from what I saw, because if I was in Kirk Franklin's shoes, if I had 16 Grammys and I was this like famous person, I would kind of be wondering, are they trying to come after my money? Are they trying to make themselves popular? Like, is this more about them? And everything that Richard did and everything that he said, it just was so just, you do this on your terms, you do this at your pace. And you actually see because they record Richard finding out from Kirk that he is his father, and he apologizes to him and says, "If I had known, I would have been there." And I think that's what Kirk kinda needed. I think there was a part of him that really just needed to be loved and embraced for who he was, and not because of all the other stuff. Just because he was his son. And to me, from what I saw, it seemed like the father really, really did that. And because even in their relationship going forward, he said, "Hey, this is a lot of information. You go at your pace." So centering the child. So often I see people, and I tagged my video on emotionally immature parents in this, because I'm sure for his mom, what might have come up is, because sometimes there can be some shame put on women, that if there's questions about who the birth father is. And I have no shame, I have no hate, I have, like, and and I think there was a part of her that just really wanted it to be that other guy. And but the fact is that it wasn't. Like, this is his father. And for Kirk Franklin, I think there is going to be some grief. And so if he does have to lose his father, because he had grieved who he thought was his father, and now he has to reopen all those wounds, reopen all of those doors. And that's where he said, like, I'm gonna talk to a therapist. Sarah, I totally agree. Validation goes a huge way. AR Jones, welcome, welcome. I really enjoy talking about these things, just because there is so much that can come up for individuals. And I did wanna give that warning that when you go back and watch, if you haven't watched the full video already, it is an emotional roller coaster. And I believe, because somebody commented, because I put it on Facebook, somebody said that one of their favorite quotes from it is that it was a beautiful mess. And it really was, because you really see this emotional journey that he's on, and how he put that energy into the music. And he's releasing a new album October 6th, I think. But I just I was floored, because I also tagged the video that my mom and I did on healing mother and father wounds, because mother and father wounds often impact the way that we show up in relationships, the way that we show up to our own children. Like, those wounds can really impact things. And I can only imagine what it was like for Kirk having his mom again say, "No, this can't be true. This is wrong. These tests are wrong." And a lot of people were in the comments of that video kind of, giving her quite a bit of hate and everything. And I truly try to take an approach where I'm trying to see things from both people's perspective, because this could have reopened some wounds for her as well. But it was whoa. Yes. And if you didn't check out, so Karen and I did a video recently. Make sure to, if you didn't see it on my stream, you can check it out on hers. But we did a video on the custody process, because it reminded me of some of the things that we talked about during that live stream, about how you have to center the needs of the child. And you really saw Kirk Franklin's father centering him. What did Kirk need in that moment, even as a 53-year-old man? And how a lot of this brought up some things that the 10-year-old him or the younger him needed to hear. And somebody, oh, has a song called what? Which song? Oh, Suspended Grief. Is that Sarah? What's the name of the song that that he has? I would just love to know. This, I cannot speak more highly of this. And he talks about in this article being bullied as a kid, having a learning disorder, failing out of high school. And so his son, so Kirk Franklin's son, he had his first child when he was 17 years old, and feeling really hurt within the church because of that. And the woman that adopted him being 64 years old, but not really feeling that he had a community. And so that he spent a lot of his time alone, and just that loneliness just kept coming back up. And you did see him during this process that there were times that he needed to kind of pull away and just be by himself. And then there were times when he asked for a hug. And I thought that was really sweet. And just wow. And so this is a picture from when they are meeting for the first time, and Kirk is handing him the envelope to say that he is his father. And then yes, I'm so bad with names. And then this is the photo of him and his son. And I do hope that his son was able to look at the footage and kind of approve, or kind of give his feedback on, hey, can you take this part out? Or like, I hope he was able to give some feedback. I don't know that he was, because this was produced by a production company. And it sounds like before they started filming, they would have people sign a document, I think, saying that they were giving them permission to use the footage however the production company saw fit. But if it was my family, I would have wanted to make sure that, because you see his oldest son's emotions that he goes through as well. And just how hopefully they can end up breaking this generational pattern of the father and son, of this father son wound, because it really did seem to run so deep. And Kirk tries to confront his mom and set some boundaries. And there are times when, with some people, distance, like, you just have, there isn't a way to be around them. Like, you just need to create some distance, because according to the end of the video, it sounded like him and his mom were estranged for now, and people can always reconcile, people can always, you know, but for now, probably for his own mental health, he just needed to take care of himself, and so Ah. Oh, wow. Kelly Clarkson has a song called "Beautiful Disaster." Wow. Yeah, so I love music. You never have to apologize. So music can be incredibly healing, and it can really when people don't have the words, when they don't have when they can't put it together. And the song was a beautiful mess. And so I will have to check that out. I do like his music, and so I will have to check that one out. Out of pain, there really can come some beauty, but I'm sure that was incredibly painful to go through in those moments, and so I saw that, I had to hop on real quick to just talk about it. If y'all have questions, I'll be going live with my mom tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We are recording the podcast talking about cleaning. So, I despise cleaning. I did the bathrooms today, all but I did a few of the bathrooms today. I skipped one of the half. Skipped I skipped most of the things, and it wasn't today, it was actually yesterday. I see my brain doesn't even wanna remember when I did it. I did it yesterday. I did the laundry, I did all those things. I am not a fan, and we're gonna talk about how me and laundry my idea of getting laundry done is not that it necessarily finished is where it needs to be. Sometimes it just ends up in strange places. Is Phoenix here? And I love so Sarah, I promise I will not follow. I probably will follow you to other streams, to other things, to other people that are talking about these legal topics and all those other things. Because I saw you in Hidden True Crimes chat yesterday. I was kinda going in and out because I was watching some shows with family at the end of the night, so I was kind of listening in and commenting a little and then coming back, but that was hilarious that you were talking about us following each other. So, check it yes, and so that will be tomorrow morning. We're gonna talk about tips, and the book that we're gonna be kind of covering a little bit is from Casey Davis. Over on TikTok, she's the listeners. She did a TED Talk, and so we're gonna watch a part of her TED Talk where she just talks about how to keep house while drowning and really just giving some practical tips. How often mental health professionals they might give because like if somebody is struggling to even brush their teeth, that the idea of them showering every day, they're just not going to be able to do that. So how do we help people where they are? And she really just out of her own experience, out of her own kind of things that she went through and things that were helpful for her that she shared on social media and a lot of people resonated with and she realized, "Oh wow, this is a bigger problem than any of us thought." She ended up sharing that. Yes, it is so helpful for with ADHD. And she has ADHD and she has certain rules, certain things that she does to adjust her life. And hearing her perspective has honestly been helpful when I'm working with a client that's maybe postpartum and is struggling to just brush their teeth or they let me know that they haven't combed their hair in 2 months or just being able to help people through some of those things. And yes. So I'm going to go on ahead and hop off. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Have a good one. Bye.